Good day to you. My name is Geyer. I am the founder of EnQPractice. I am also one of the co-founders of All Copy Publishers, home of the Mind Action series. Having been in the educational environment for over 20 years now and having a background in industrial psychology, it became quite apparent to me many years ago that there was very little available to teachers, educators, and students in terms of emotional intelligence training. Why is this important? Because academic expertise is amazing, but knowing who we are and how to fit ourselves into an environment can also be really helpful within a career and within effective communication. So what I did was I work internationally. I work with 3 countries, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. And I traveled around and I did some research with lots of principals, head teachers, and students, and we had a look at the areas that they felt were really important. Where I've developed a program called Circles of Empowerment, and I'd just like to show you how I got there. Mostly with my work around the teacher leaders in terms of what they needed in their school. So what we did was we looked at areas that were important to the leadership staff in a school in terms of the staff that they had on board and the leadership teams that they would create. And I'm just going to use the first letters, but you can stay with me here. When they hired teachers or they looked at their staff, something that was really important to them was academic qualifications. Obviously, that's important, and that is something that can come from a CV, and we can show that we've got those academic qualifications. The next thing was classroom skills. That is very important to a teacher, to the leadership staff in terms of who they've got on their staff. And the other thing was their experience as a teacher, so their teaching experience. Those 3 areas you can get off a CV, you can get through references, so it's something that's fairly easy to measure before that staff member comes on board. The other 3 areas, these included self-awareness. In other words, understanding where my strengths lie, what kind of personality I have, things that drive me, things that motivate me, things that I don't like. That's a level of self-awareness. Then that moves on to awareness of others, which also leads to effective communication. And the last area important to these leaders was leadership. In terms of, I'm going to write the full word because that's really a focus here. In terms of what leadership means in a current academic environment, I think this is common knowledge that the academic environment is changing in terms of leadership. It used to be all about who was most highly qualified and who had the most authority. But today, due to the changes in technology, that is no longer. So leadership is becoming something quite different from what many of us were led to understand leadership was about. So we're really at the forefront of that in terms of trying to help educators to understand how to turn leadership around so that they still become really, really effective leaders within an academic environment. Now, what I did with the people that I interviewed was I said to them, if all of the scores in terms of these 6 areas of importance were 0 over here and moving to 10 over here, what would your scores be in terms of where your school sits currently? And many of them scored really well when it came to academic qualifications because those are really chosen. Classroom skills, those have been well developed and they are well taught, so they scored really well there too. Same with academic qualifications teaching experience, because that they would obviously choose the teachers that had the most experience and certainly retain the teachers that were very experienced within their environment. So they scored well there. But when it came to self-awareness, unfortunately, they didn't have great scores in terms of the self-awareness of their educators. In terms of effective communication and the awareness of others, they didn't score very well there either. And leadership seemed to be quite an area of concern in terms of what they understood that to be. So when we added up the scores, if it was supposed to be a wheel, it obviously didn't really turn out to be such a good wheel. I just also want to mention that in terms of our effective communication and awareness of others, conflict comes in here, and that's one of the very biggest areas that we can make an impact in terms of the training that we do. So that's what the wheel looked like. So what we did was we created a program to draw out these three areas so that they had a full circle. And that's where circles of empowerment came from. Also, what we found in most schools was at the inner circle, and this is the top management of most schools, they had often been given some kind of training and had access to some kind of emotional intelligence training. So they were a little bit ahead in terms of these kinds of areas. But that has very seldom been then taken out to all staff, and almost never taken out to students. So circles of empowerment is really about not just creating a full circle so that a school function to their absolute optimum in terms of their leadership, but also that it works from the inner leadership to all staff members and to students. Now, the way that we did this for academic staff was to create a 4-hour workshop. The first hour is all about self-awareness. That's where we get them to take an online assessment. It only takes 10 to 15 minutes, and they are able to identify their what we call interaction style or personality style. We are all born with a default setting in terms of our personality style. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong or right with us. Each personality style is really good. They are just different. And we have to understand ours so that we can then go into this next session. And the second hour is all about awareness of others. And the awareness of others is understanding who else is on our team. This is fantastic in terms of not just dealing effectively with our colleagues, but also with our students and with parents, which is a big part of being a teacher today. The third hour, and we give the most focus to this in our workshop, is all about conflict resolution. And what we do there is we have a look at how conflict arises. We teach a very, very good method in terms of being able to resolve conflict. And also we have a good look at how the personality types tend to impact within a conflict situation, so that understanding your personality style or your interaction style is really handy in terms of dealing in a conflict situation with somebody of the same style or someone in a different style. So we just become so much better at managing conflicts, and it becomes much less of an issue to everybody that's been on the training. The last section of our training for academic staff is all about leadership. It's called Leadership by Example, and we look very carefully there at what leadership means in today's academic environment, with the changes where we can no longer rely on subject expertise, rely on qualifications, and rely on just the fact that we are in an authoritative position. So leadership is something which is a dynamic and exciting area to be in, but understanding it really helps us in terms of furthering our own experiences as in academic leadership and within our career. You will have received marketing material in terms of the workshops that we might be wanting to run with you. We do offer in-house training, mostly in-house, so that we can do staff teams, we can do the academic heads, or we can do the leadership teams for different kinds of areas within your school. Every school is different, and every school might need a different application, and we will discuss that with you. If you are watching this because you've been invited to a showcase, I would really encourage you to attend. Even if you never took it any further at all, you will learn skills that you can use immediately. We can send you many testimonials and referrals from schools internationally that we have worked very successfully with, and you will find our pricing really affordable and the time that we need quite accessible. Thank you for taking the time to listen to what I've had to share with you today. And if you think that this is something that might be of value to you or to your school, I really do look forward to working with you in the future.